Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today I have another project for my holiday video series, and I'm going to be creating a card using a bunch of stamps from Stacey Yacula. I think I'm pronouncing that properly, but I'm not really sure. I did purchase this set of stamps from the Purple Onion Design website, and this set of stamps was a bundle called Pine Cone Trail. The images are absolutely adorable, and the stamps are all red rubber stamps, and I don't have the mounting block yet. I've ordered it, but I don't have it yet for these stamps. So what I decided I would do is just stamp this out using my waffle flower mat. So I just put that stamp out on my mat and then inked it up and then put my paper on top of it and inked it up in that way. And I used VersaFine Onyx Black ink because I'm going to be doing some watercoloring. So I've just stamped that out on some Bristol Smooth cardstock. And you can see here that one of the things I really love about this waffle flower media mat is there's this little spot for your whatever mediums you're using. In this case, I'm using Distress ink cubes, and they're just the perfect size, these little wells for stamping out those little ink cubes. And I love watercoloring with Distress ink. The colors are so bright and pretty, and it's just a really super easy process. And I really like to use the wet on wet method when I'm watercoloring. So what you'll see is I water the ink down quite a bit in the little well, and I put the first color down. I think that first color is, I'm just looking on my desk here, it is Lucky Clover. And so I just got quite a bit of water in my little Lucky Clover well, and then I just kind of dabbed that onto the tree. And then that's really juicy and wet now, that tree area. So then I went in with another color and dabbed some of that in. And I'm just doing really loose watercoloring. I don't care if there's shadows or anything like that. What I wanted was just sort of like a variation of different colors in the little areas, just to make it look interesting in that way and give it some dimension. And so you'll see that I'm going to do a little bit of Lucky Clover, and I'll do a little bit of pine needles, and I'm trying to think of what the other color of green was that I used there. I will just take a look on my desk here, and I'll leave the colors in a list in the description box below if you're interested in knowing. So I'm just going to go ahead really quickly here. I've sped this video up quite a bit because it's just the same process over and over again. And I'm just dropping color into all those little tree areas. Another way that you could do this is you could do this with the no line watercoloring method, where the black lines wouldn't show at all. But I just kind of like this look. I don't mind it at all. And I wanted my little critters that I'm going to be painting here today to have that black outline. So that's why I used the VersaFine ink. And of course, the VersaFine ink is waterproof, so it's great for watercoloring. I'm going to paint the trunks of the trees a couple of different brown colors. I'm using some frayed burlap for that area, and I'm also using some ground espresso there. So the lighter color is the frayed burlap, and then the darker color is ground espresso. If you want to darken up your color while you're doing the watercoloring, just let that first layer of color dry, and then you can go back in with a deeper color that's got less water in it and add that over top here and there, just to give a little bit more definition to your color. So it really depends on what look you're going for, what you like to do with your watercoloring. But like I said before, I really like the kind of loose look. I don't mind if there's blooms in the ink. I like how that looks. I think it just looks really cool. And I wanted it just to have a really painterly look. I didn't care if it was perfect coloring. So now I went in with some purple, and I'm going to do the lowest part of the skyline there, the darkest purple. This is wilted violet. I did put out 3 colors on my palette, but I only ended up using the one. I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do here for my sky area, but there's just a ever so tiny little bit of sky showing. So I only ended up using that wilted violet. So I've got the darkest color down at the bottom near the snow line, and then I just add more water and bring that color up to the tops of the tree line there, just to make it look like it's fading out into a lighter sky up above. And then you'll see I'll come back to that wilted violet after and add that into some of the snow areas. So I really love how this is turning out. I think it just adds a really pretty pop of color for the sky. I love this stamp set. I think it's so cool. This background kind of like treed snowy area and whatnot that this is creating, this landscape is just super cool. And it was just a lot of fun to work with. And I love Stacey's images. I've seen them in my favorite things stamps before and so on. And I do have a few in my stash and I just love them. And so this bundle was only available for a certain period of time. I don't think you can get the whole bundle anymore, but you can still get the individual stamps. So you could go over to the Purple Onion and check out these individual stamp sets. And like I said, they're unmounted red rubber stamps, so they stamp beautifully. And they do also sell a block at the Purple Onion that will help you stamp these out. And you saw how I stamped mine at the beginning. So it is nice to actually have that block. I used some gray first for my snow. So everywhere where there was lines where the snow is kind of meant to have, maybe where one bank of snow meets another sort of thing where there's lines, I used the hickory smoke ink in that area. And then what I did after was I went in with a little bit of really watered down wilted violet and added just a little bit of purple to those areas too, because I thought, well, in theory, the reflection of the sky would be happening in that snow too. So the 2 little critters that I wanted to paint today are this really cute little fox and this adorable little owl, and they have little snowshoes on, and I thought they would just be so cute in my little scene. So I thought about masking them off and then doing just like a 1-layer card, but I decided that I'd just pop them up on some foam. I think that's a really cute look, and that's what I decided I was going to do. Now, I started out by making my fox a combination of a light, kind of an orangey yellow, and some brown. And then I just intensified that orange with, and I'm pretty sure this is spice marmalade that I went in with, but the oranges that I use are wild honey and then spiced marmalade. And then just a little bit of that brown, and I think the brown that I used there was the frayed burlap. I just wanted it to be just a really, really light amount of brown on there. I wanted my little fox to mostly be the orange, kind of orangey reddish tones. And so I'm just going to finish painting my little fox in here. So, this watercoloring technique is super, super easy and quick. It doesn't take much practice to be able to do this. This is not special paper. I mean, it's Bristol Smooth paper. It's not regular cardstock, but it's not watercolor paper. This Bristol Smooth paper takes watercolor or a watercoloring technique quite nicely, and I didn't have any trouble with the paper warping. And I'll show you one way that you can work with warped paper here when I go to adhere this down to my card, or when I go to adhere my card front to my card base. So now I'm just going to color in the scarf with a little bit of, and I think I used peacock feathers here for this, and a little bit of that wilted violet again. So I'm just a little bit of teal and a little bit of purple together. I just thought that was really pretty. And then the purple, of course, brings back in the color of the sky. And actually the teal really picks up nicely on that lucky clover color in the trees, which is kind of a teal green, deep teal green color. And I'm going to color my little owl in. I'm going to watercolor him in with some hickory smoke. and I'm going to leave the little areas where his eyes are and his little tummy. I'm just going to leave white. So I did leave those white areas on that little fox, and I thought that would just look cute if some of the fur area on the little owl or the feathers is white as well. And then the little toque that the owl is wearing is the same colors as the little fox's scarf and mitts. So the little toque is going to be that really pretty peacock feathers blue and the wilted violet as well. And I really like how this looks. I think it's super cute. And for my little critters, all I did was I just fussy cut them. I left a little tiny white border around the edges. I didn't cut right on the black line. When you die cut things like this, if you have dies, the dies leave a little white border, and I like that look. I think it looks and it's a nice finish, and so that's what I ended up doing. I left a little tiny white border when I fussy cut these. I'm just using a little bit of that spice marmalade on my little owl's beak and his little feet. And then what I'm doing now is just taking a bit of watered down white paint, and I'm splattering that onto my background. And that's just a really super easy process to create that effect of snow. Now, if you have any warping at all where you've used the watercolor, you can take some foam adhesive, cover the back of your paper with that foam adhesive like I have here with my double-sided foam adhesive tape, and it totally takes any warping out of that paper completely. It actually works really, really well. So I've got that stuck down to a little bit of craft cardstock that's got a little bit of a gold glitter fleck on it. And you can see that I've mounted that on a green cardstock base. Now I'm going to just take a little bit of foam adhesive, and I'm going to adhere my two little critters onto my background with some little foam dots. And that's just going to give them a little bit of dimension on my card front. I'm going to use a little bit of, this is my Nuvo shimmer pen. I'm going to just use a little bit of this to make them really sparkly and shiny. You have to be really careful with this when you're using this over top of watercolors. It will reactivate the paint. So you just have to kind of make sure that you clean that brush off on some scratch paper on the side to make sure that you're not kind of spreading the color around where you don't want it. Now this is some Stardust Stickles, and I just really wanted to add some sparkle and shine to my card, so I just go to town with this. I add it to a bunch of different little areas on my little fox and my owl, on their toque and their scarf, their mitts. I add it to kind of like on top of their little head area there. I put it on the trees, and I put it on the snow a little bit here and there, just to add some really, really pretty sparkle. And I really love how that looks. Now, I took a sentiment from the Pinecone Trails bundle that says Season's Greetings, and I'm going to stamp that out on some Bristol Smooth cardstock here with some VersaFine Onyx Black ink. I wanted to do a little bit of heat embossing, so I did stamp that in black, but you'd never know it because this really beautiful gold glitter embossing powder from Wow just completely covers that with gold, and it's just beautiful. I really like how that turns out. Now, I did actually use my anti-static powder tool on this piece of paper before I put that embossing powder on there, and now I've just used a little die from My Favorite Things to cut out my sentiment. I'm going to pop that up on some foam adhesive and put that down onto my card, and my card's going to be finished today, guys. I had so much fun watercoloring this card front. I think watercoloring is, it's a technique that you can use that has a really big impact, and it's not hard to do. I know a lot of people are afraid of it, but honestly, if you have distress ink, you can do some watercoloring, and it's as easy as that. Now, I just wanted to create a little bit of shadow underneath my little critters here. So I'm just taking my paintbrush here, and I'm just adding a little bit of that hickory smoke ink underneath, and I kind of put down some little spots that kind of look like little footprints in the snow where they've been doing their snowshoeing. Thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate it. I had so much fun creating this card, and I hope you enjoyed watching. If you did, please give me a thumbs up. I'd really appreciate it. And if you haven't subscribed yet, I'd love to have you as a subscriber here on my channel. I am going to leave a list of the supplies that I used today in the description box below. And if you have a comment for me, please let me know. What did you think of the card? Was there anything here that you were particularly inspired by? I'd love to hear that. And I hope you have an amazing day, and I hope to see you back here another time. I'm just showing you here the dimensions of the card, and here's a close-up shot. See you later. Bye-bye.